we just got an interesting article from AI expert and Wharton professor Ethan Mollick, who published this preliminary blueprint for how companies should be reinventing themselves due to the organizational changes caused by AI. Now, Mollick it doesn't work for OpenAI, but he often sees behind the curtain quite a bit with some special access he gets. So I think it's also quite interesting. He is publishing this now because he basically notes that with the tools we already have, the AI technology that already exists, we're already having the ability to radically change the way we work. He says, quote, theoretical discussions become practical, drudge work is removed, and even more importantly, hours of meetings are eliminated, and the remaining meetings are more impactful and useful. A process that used to take a week can be reduced to a day or two. Now, this is where he sees us already being at today, and much, much more may be possible in the near future. He writes, we can already see a world where autonomous AI agents start with a concept and go all the way to code and deployment with minimal human intervention. Importantly, this is, in fact, a stated goal of OpenAI's next phase of product development. It is likely that entire tasks can be largely outsourced to these agents, with humans acting as survivors or supervisors. Now, his point here is that AI is impacting companies already, and managers need to start taking an active role in shaping what this looks like. He fully admits I don't have all the answers yet, but does offer some advice for doing so. Just briefly, some of that advice is letting teams develop their own methods because AIs perform more like people than software, even though they are software. They are best managed as additional team members. Teams will need to figure out their own ways to use AI through experimentation and a way of sharing those methods with each other and with leadership. He also says you should be building for the oncoming future. In this article, everything I've shown you is already possible today using GPT-4. If we learned one thing from the OpenAI leadership drama, it is clear that more advanced models are coming and coming fast. Organizational change takes time, so those adapting processes to AI should be considering future versions of AI rather than just building for the models of today. And this last piece of advice I found interesting. It is coming at this particular juncture. He says straight up, you don't have time. If the sort of efficiency gains we are seeing from early AI experiments continue, organizations that wait to experiment will fall behind very quickly. If we can truly trim a weeks-long process into a days-long one, that is a profound change to how work gets done. Now, Paul, we obviously are very close followers of Ethan Mollick. I found the timing of this interesting. I found the stark language he used interesting. What were your thoughts on his advice?
Yeah, a couple other excerpts that jumped out to me. He talked about how anyone can add intelligence to a project with AI, and that evidence shows that people are already doing this. They're just not telling their bosses. So he cited a survey that found over half of people using AI at work are doing so without approval, and 64% have passed off AI work as their own, which should be terrifying to people who understand the copyright implications of that and other concerns. He said this sort of shadow AI use is possible as large language models are uniquely suited to handling organizational roles. They work at a human scale. They can read documents, write emails, adapt to context, and assist with projects without requiring users to have specialized training or complex custom built software. Um, what does it mean for organizations when we acknowledge that this is happening? How to rebuild an organization on a fundamental shift in the way work is done, organized, and communicated. And as you said, he doesn't have the answers. Nobody does. But it's impacting organizations, and managers have to start taking an active role. Now, his 3 points at the end that you outlined, I just wanted to add a couple of thoughts on those. So the first is let teams develop their own methods. Great in theory. uh, like, I don't see how that works. Like, we talk with a lot of big enterprises, and a lot of enterprises are not only restricting but limiting. They're restricting access to AI
Mm,
tools. Um, so if you're going to follow this premise, which I actually believe in, like, I do think that we have to democratize the access to these tools and the innovation that can come from them. I think that the practitioners will be the people finding the most interesting use cases when they're given the freedom to explore them and experiment. But in a lot of big enterprises, they're not going to be allowed to, no matter how much we say that that's the path forward. So, at minimum, I think organizations really need to get their generative AI policies and responsible AI principles in place to allow this to happen. So, even if you're an organization that's like, yeah, go for it, like our organization, it's like, yeah, test stuff, like whatever, go ahead. Like, as long as you're not connecting it to sensitive data, like go ahead and test whatever you want and find some use cases. You still need to give people the guardrails of what they're allowed to do and make sure that they understand how to properly use these tools. Otherwise, you're putting your organization at risk. The second thing is build for the future. I agree 100%. We talk about this all the time when we do presentations, when we run workshops, but I struggle to find uh, any organizations that are correctly planning for the present.
Mm,
So, like, it's most companies we talk to, most big enterprises, they don't have a plan for what to do about GPT-4. Like, most people, when you poll them, haven't even tried ChatGPT Plus. Their perception of what AI does is the free version of ChatGPT. So I agree 100% that the more forward-thinking organizations, the ones that will win, are thinking about everything we just went through in the previous topic. They're thinking about what is a large language model 6, 12 months from now? What's it going to be capable of? What does that mean to us? But I just don't see organizations planning in that way. I hope that changes in 2024, but as of right now, we're talking to the companies that are building their plans for 2024, and they have not built this into them. Um, and the last is you don't have time. Like, this is going to happen fast. Agree 100%. So what I'll reiterate is the way we teach this, the way we teach it in workshops, the way we teach this when we do advisory work, there's 5 steps that every company needs to be taking. And it's a good time to remind this as we're nearing the end of 2023. Number one, education and training. You have to get your team on board with this. To get team experimentation, to give them the freedom to do this, they have to know how to use it. To find the right pilot projects in your company, you need team-wide understanding of it. So prioritize education and training going into next year. You have to have an AI council that guides the development of this, the monitoring of the progress. That council should be cross-functional throughout your organization, not just marketing, but sales and service and operations and finance and legal and everything. Policies and principles we talked about. Number 3, get the generative AI policies and responsible AI principles in place, and then adhere to them, teach them, make them a part of the culture. Number 4, if you're talking about like building for the future, you have to do impact assessments of your team. How is AI going to impact the roles in your organization? How is it going to impact your products and services, your operations? And then the last piece is build an AI roadmap that lays out the priority projects that are going to be initiated, how it's going to affect different teams, how it's going to affect the tech stack. So I love Ethan's, thinking, obviously, in his writing. I think that there's beyond the 3 points he outlines, you really need to take action now and start thinking about those other 5 steps that I just outlined and what you can do in your organization starting in December to get that stuff moving.
yeah, I would hope the main thread that people realize running through these three main topics is it's probably time to act with some urgency.